So happy birthday. And shout outs to Chef Day, who is in the studio with us today. Amazing guy. Get in touch with Cafe Day to order some sumptuous pastries and little finger foods from him. Amazing. 12-year-old executive, entrepreneur, extraordinary. Chef Day, we love you. And on this segment, we are trying to tell you all about the new E-levy law. It's been days, weeks, and months of back and forths to bring this bill across the assenting divide to become a law. The thought is to broaden the tax net and bring more people into paying taxes for development projects in the country. And parliamentarians have disagreed, they've fought, they've brawled, and a walkout, all ending in that one passage of the bill, assented 2 days later into law. Implementation to start on May 1, 2022, and the Ghana Revenue Authority is on a drive to educate Ghanaians on what to expect when the implementation actually begins, which transactions will be affected and which transactions will not be affected. So you probably have your own ideas and thoughts about what the e-levy means. Send your questions across to us. Our WhatsApp number 05555611034, and we need to do this very quickly because we have other things scheduled on the table. So send your questions now. We have a member of the e-levy technical committee from the Ghana Revenue Authority joining us at the table, Mr. Isaac Kobina Amuakon, and he's going to explain all we know. Isaac, good morning and welcome.
Good morning.
So you're on a drive to educate Ghanaians about what to expect during the implementation of what we now know as the Electronic Transfer Levy Act 2022, Act 1075. It almost sounds like the initial figure that was pegged at 1.75, which has now been brought down to 1.5% of transactions beyond 100 Ghana cedis a day. What's the first thing for you when you were put on this implementation technical committee to advise for implementation? To explain what the e-levy actually is, or to convince people that it's actually a good idea? Which of them did you find to be more pressing?
My background is somebody who implements, so I head the project management unit of GRA. So our work is to make sure that once it has become an act, we implement it successfully, so that the intention of the government to use the e-levy to rake in the revenue, that becomes successful. So that is the work that we are doing, to make sure that we implement the act as the parliament or the president has assented to. Yeah.
So until now, we paid a charge to telecom companies for sending money via the Momo portals, available Momo portals. But now that's being taken to an extra level with the implementation of the e-levy when it does take effect in May. Take us through the scope of the levy once again.
Okay. So the Act makes provision for which transactions or which transfers are covered when you make them. The first one that is covered is that if you are making mobile money transfer to another mobile money transfer, same network. So an example being an MTN to MTN, Vodafone to Vodafone, Tigo to Airtel Tigo to Airtel Tigo, you have to pay this charge. That's the first cover. The next cover is that you are making Momo transfer or mobile money transfer, but to another network other than the network that you belong to. That also is within scope. The third one is that you're moving or transferring funds from a bank account to a mobile money account or wallet. That also comes within the scope of the law. The fourth one is that you are moving mobile money, but this time it's terminating on a bank account. It also comes under the scope of the Act. Then the fifth and last one is where you are using a service the bank provides. It's known as instant pay, but you are using your personal bank account. That also comes under the scope of the e-levy.
Okay, so these are I think I have a fair idea of what you mean when you say Momo transfers between accounts. So if I send Momo from my phone to another person, another person's Momo number beyond the 100 Ghana cedis, the extra So if I send 120, the 20 cedis attracts the e-levy of 1.5. Yes?
So that will come under what we call the exclusions. So the first one I explained to you are the inclusions. So
Okay.
the exclusions are first, 100 Ghana transfer.
Isaac, let's understand what it covers first, and then what it doesn't. Then we'll probably understand. I'm saying that, so if I send money more than 100 cedis from my Momo number to another person's mobile number, that will attract the e-levy charge.
So my explanation to that is that is under those that it doesn't cover.
Okay.
So if you want me to restrict myself to those it covers, then
then we'll pick up this one when we get to
the first one on what it doesn't cover.
So Momo transfers between account and wallet on the same electronic money issuer.
Yes.
Even if it's on another network.
That's the second one.
So then it comes into the point two. Another from an account to another money issuer is 2, and then transfers from bank accounts to Momo wallets, more or less the reverse of the first one.
No,
or the second.
That's the first and the second are related. They are all on the same network. So
and they will attract the charge.
So
the bit that I want to understand is about the instant digital platforms. Which platforms are those?
That's the last one. That is a banking service. When you want to move funds from your bank account to another bank account, there's a service that you pay and the money will be sent instantly. Other than that, the money will delay either 24 hours or some number of hours. So that service is known as instant pay. If you are using that service, then you come under the scope of the e-levy. But that is restricted to personal accounts or individual accounts and not corporate accounts.
Okay, so now let's talk about what it doesn't affect.
Good.
And in which instances you will not pay the e-levy.
Good. So that is what it doesn't affect. So the first 100 Ghana that you make cumulatively in a day is tax-free. We don't tax that. What it means is that if you have a number of wallets, MTN, Airtel, Tigo, all combined, including your bank account, we cumulate all this together in a day and grant you a tax-free on 100. So if I am sending 200, government will forgive you 100 out of it and tax only the difference, the 100 that is left. That is when we would impose the 1.5. Okay. So in the same way, you are sending 120 cedis to a friend. Government will forgive you the 100 and tax you on the 20 cedis. That is the first exclusion. That relatively in a day is forgiving you free of charge. You don't pay e-levy.
But there's a catch there, isn't there? Because I've heard that the cumulative 100 is not across just your Momo account. It includes your other transactions on other electronic platforms. So if you send 100 cedis from your bank account to a number which attracts the levy, and you send another amount from your Momo to another person which is also charged, you pay for the extra monies that you've sent. Explain that, make it a bit more clear to those who are watching.
So the 100 Ghana is given to you as a person once. It is not given to you based on the wallets that you own. So if you own 10 wallets, you are not getting 100 times 10, making 1,000 cedis. You are just given 100 Ghana a day. So you have to decide whether you would share it in bets across all the wallets you own, or you use one wallet to consume it. You are entitled to 160.
So that includes everything moving from your bank account and from other mobile numbers that you have. So if you have 2 mobile phones with 2 registered Momo numbers for 2 different networks, you only have 100 for all the numbers that you have. So we are getting some answers for you here. Remember to send your questions across to us 05555 We want you to understand what it is that we are about to start paying for come May 1. So 100 per person a day across your account and your wallet. And then there's a second exclusion level.
The second exclusion is that if the account you own belongs to you, we don't intend that when you send to yourself, you should be charged. So if you move from your MTN, any amount, no limit, to another network or to your bank account, to anything that you own yourself, you don't pay the e-levy.
And again, there's a catch.
There's no catch.
If the accounts do not bear the same name, then the system would have no way of verifying whether or not you are the same person. So if you registered your bank account when you were a student in school and you used perhaps your maiden name, and 15 years later you're married and you're using your marital name which you used to register for your Ghana card, then the name on your bank account and the Ghana card, i.e. your SIM card registration by extension, will not necessarily match, and that would be a problem for enjoying the exclusion, right?
So as you know, tax is one of our laws, so we have to be seen as obeying the laws of the country. Currently, the only way to identify you, the identity that the state allows or is recognized, is your Ghana card and no other identity. So if you were using the driver's license or the voter's ID some time ago, some years ago, it's in the past. That's why the government have announced that everyone should go and re-register and change their details that they've given to their SIM cards, and you've been given some timelines within which to comply. The same way, Bank of Ghana has also issued a directive that go and update your details with the bank. The same way the Ghana Revenue Authority have asked taxpayers that now we are using your Ghana card as your identity. So as a state, we've come to a point where we believe that the Ghana card is the only source that tells who our identity is. If you have any other thing apart from the Ghana card, we are not going to use that. So between now and the time that we roll out, the message we are giving to citizens are that for telcos, you don't even have to move physically. You can start the first part by dialing the short code that normally when you are making phone calls, they tell you on the phone that you need to dial and link your account to your Ghana card. Once you just do the part 1 of linking, you would enjoy this exemption.
Okay, so your names on your bank account and your other wallets need to match, so that when you send monies from yourself to yourself, it will not attract the levy. So that's the other understanding that we have. And then there's also the transfer of payment of taxes, fees and charges on the Ghana.gov platforms. Explain that to us.
Okay, so government is saying that if you are paying tax to me, you're paying a fee to me, or you're paying charges on a platform that government has designed for all government institutions, I'm not going to impose an additional e-levy on you. So if at the end of the month you're a company and you are paying the taxes to government, we won't put a tax on that tax. So once you go and pay on the Ghana.gov platform, currently there is no extra levy on the amount that you pay to government.
So let's take it one at a time. If you're paying taxes to GRA,
yes,
and you are using an e-mode of payment to pay your income tax or your business to GRA, you don't pay e-levy on that amount. So
the Ghana Revenue is using a platform called Ghana.gov platform. It was provided by the government, and it is not only the Ghana Revenue Authority that uses that platform. Other government agencies are using that same platform. So far as your payment to government is through that platform, you are not imposed an additional e-levy to pay.
So if you're paying Ghana water charges, electricity bills, those do not attract the e-levy?
Okay. So electricity bills will be a different one because they are currently not on the Ghana.gov platform. So they will come under a different exclusion. But for those who are on the Ghana.gov platform, we have passport office. So when you are buying your passport forms, you don't pay the e-levy. You have some of the assemblies, you are paying the assembly rates, you are paying the permit. Those you pay through the platform, you don't pay the e-levy. Lands Commission, when you are processing your document with the Lands Commission, they also use that same platform. You don't pay the e-levy. So these are the ones that do not attract an additional e-levy once you use the Ghana.gov or any other designated Government of Ghana payment platform that will be announced.
Okay.
You won't pay the e-levy.
And fees, when you talk about fees, you're talking about fees to which levels of tertiary education or even in other spheres?
No.
Not only education?
No. When we talk about fees here, we are talking about government institutions who are charging fees. So you pick something like the DVLE, they have fees and charges. You pick the assemblies, they also have some fees and charges. Once it is paid through the Ghana.gov platform, that payment of that fee doesn't come with an additional charge.
The reason I asked that question is people have when we are paying fees it doesn't attract e-levy, with the understanding that fees is school fees. So they think that if they are paying fees for the awards who are attaining an education, then the e-levy will not be imposed on those amounts. And that's why I ask for the clarity.
So the clarity is that fees to institutions that are not government will be handled under another exclusion handle. So when I get to that handle, then I place it. But for the handle we are on, the Ghana.gov platform, it doesn't include those school fees to your school. It doesn't include that.
Okay. And what about hospitals and accessing hospital
all
services?
Of them are not included here.
Okay. So the next one then, from what the slides that we've seen on the screen shortly, is for specified merchant payments. Tell us about that.
So that is where what we're talking about now comes into perspective. So the hospitals that you talked about, paying school fees and things, what we call the specified merchant payment. So as far as the hospital is registered with the Ghana Revenue Authority for income tax or VAT, then the hospital will come under this handle. And for that matter, when you make payment to the hospital, you do not pay the e-levy.
So I go to Kolebu for a procedure and they bring me the bill that I have to pay. What should I look out for when I'm trying to think of it in terms of the e-levy?
Okay. So an example is that you may go to Kolebu and at their cash office where you make the payment, they would have displayed how to pay to them digitally. Because, mind you, e-levy is charged on a digital platform. So if it is not digital, we can't impose the e-levy. So Kolebu would display a short code that if you are paying any service, dial this short code. Maybe some for GRA, our short code is *2222#. That's what we pay GRA to. So Kolebu would have probably a similar number. So you are done, they give you a bill to pay for a lab test of, let's say, 300 Ghana. So you are about to pay 300 Ghana to Kolebu. You are the cash office. You dial *333 for Kolebu. By using that platform, the system will check that it is going to Kolebu. Kolebu is known by GRA and is registered for the relevant taxes, income tax or VAT or anything close to that. Then Kolebu is exempted. So the payment you pay to Kolebu won't attract the e-levy once you use that digital platform. Okay. Then it doesn't attract the levy. It's the same for even a private hospital or a private school. Once the private school is registered with GRA and it's in our records, and you are paying the private school through this digital medium, which is known in the law as a payment service, then the system will check the status of who you're paying the money to, and the levy will not apply. The same will go for the wache seller or the barber. If the barber had come to GRA and been registered, and it's in our records that he's a barber, he's registered, and you are paying the barber, you go to the barbering shop, some of them have displayed this short code in their shops. So once you dial that short code and you're about to pay the barber, it checks with GRA. Once the person is registered in good standing, the e-levy won't apply.
Okay. This is where the conversation gets really interesting for me, because you want to encourage people in the informal sector to also be brought into the net. But you're asking that the companies or the artisans, plumbers, carpenters, wache seller, cocoa seller, they should register with GRA to pay their income taxes. And if they haven't registered, then I, who is buying the wache, will have to forgo my egg to pay an e-levy charge, which is not of my making. Am I getting it clear, or would you want to correct any wrong perceptions I may have?
Yes, it's a wrong perception, because we are all part of a state and we have civic duties. Now, the civic duties of citizens is that you should report other citizens who are non-compliant to the state.
I should report the cocoa seller at Nima to the state for not paying taxes.
Yes, you should. That's your civic duty. So, because GRA staff, I mean, we are not more than 10,000. There are more citizens than the staff of GRA. So more citizens reporting other people who are non-compliant make our work more easier. So the easiest way the state is allowing you to help is that when you are paying the cocoa seller who hasn't registered and is not paying taxes, the tax will be displayed to you on your phone. You will then know that, oh, okay, this cocoa seller is not registered. That is why GRA is imposing a tax on me. So I won't buy from her. I'll go to the next cocoa seller.
me more.
It won't cost you more.
Because if I'm moving from one point to another looking for a registered...
No, you don't have to. She will probably be sitting
seller
by her. So there are 5 of them. She's the next one. So you just keep trying until there's no tax.
I think I'm listening to you, and I've read portions of this, and I always ask myself. So I'm buying wache at my favorite wache joint.
Yes.
And because she doesn't have,
she's not been
registered as a
she's not a compliant taxpayer. She's consuming state resources free of charge. She's using the streets free of charge, and you are paying for it. She's using the state, and police are protecting her, and you are paying for it, and she's not paying. You are enjoying her watching. She's keeping all the money into her pocket. It is your civic duty that everybody that uses state resources contributes a part to it. So why are you condoning something which is not nice? Okay,
so then let's let the cocoa sellers and the wache sellers off the hook for now. I apologize for all my wache sellers. Don't remove me from your customer list. You are in a salon, and we know that for some of these shops, barbering shops, they display this income tax stickers. Are those the things we should look for when we are dealing with such businesses, or is it something else?
So those are also, at least if you see the sticker, you are happy that, okay, at least for the sticker being there, this person is on the GRA payroll tax roll. So I'm comfortable. When I do the process, I should not get the tax deducted. Now, there's one thing you should also distinguish between when you are using the digital platform, a transfer and a payment. Now, the law made it clear, payments are not being taxed. When you are making payments, the law doesn't tax it.
But if you're saying if I buy wache and I send the wache seller Momo, I'm transferring the money to pay for the wache.
So I am making a clear distinction. Distinguish between transfer and payments, because the Act is not intending to tax payments. But there's a catch there. If the payment is being made to somebody who is non-compliant or is not registered with GRA, that is when we impose the tax. To more or less serve as a warning to you that deal with those who are also contributing to the state. That is
but then isn't it the consumer that suffers from that imposition, that if my carpenter is not registered and I'm paying him for the table that he made for my room, then I have to pay the E-levy?
So don't use him again. Look for another good carpenter who is registered.
This matter. Explain to us about these merchants and those.
So
those
the specified terms. Merchant payment is people or companies or businesses that are operating on the digital platform for their trade. So you have the Jumias, you have the Tonatons, where you pay them. Now order food, because of COVID, we stay in the house and the food comes to us, and we pay online. So they first have to go and enroll with these platforms for the platform to put them on that service. But additional to enrolling on the platform, they also have to register with the Ghana Revenue Authority. And by doing these two things, it makes it easier for any citizen who want to pay them. So now when you pay them, then the E-levy is not imposed upon you again. That is for the merchants here.
Right. I'm going to try and get some of our messages across, but we're still not gone through the entire list of those exclusions. And there's a bit that talks about a principal, an agent, and a master agent account.
Okay.
So for those of us who are not into that space, explain to us exactly what's going on there.
So that is also another exclusion in the law that is protecting, I'll say, capital, because those operating the mobile money business, there's a float of money that they move among themselves. So you have one master agent that have a number of agents under them, and they may have a capital of, say, 50,000 that they are using for their business, and the 50,000 is probably shared 10,000 each for sub-agents that are within this master agent. Now, the law doesn't want, anytime you move money from one agent to the other agent, the law will impose a tax. So if agent 1 has consumed all his 10,000 and needs extra, he can call agent 3 who has extra funds that send me 5,000 of your available funds to mine so that I can trade with it. When you do that sending, the law does not impose E-levy on you. Okay,
so just so I get some clarity, if I have a number of Momo operators who work under me and I send them from my bank account or just for the Momo platform?
Just for the
But if
platform.
I'm sending it from my bank account to Momo operators, it will attract the levy.
That doesn't come into perspective.
Okay.
We are protecting your Momo business.
Okay.
It doesn't include anything outside of it. So the account has to be a Momo account with the same electronic money issuer. So if it is MTN, you have an MTN account and your agents have MTN accounts and the agents are under you. So you are moving funds from your master account to the agent's account, the e-levy won't apply to you.
Okay, so that's why you say that the mobile money operators will not be affected in the e-levy charge sheet. Yeah. So this is your opportunity to ask some questions. Isaac Kobna Mwakon is with the e-levy technical committee of the Ghana Revenue Authority. They are on a road to educate you about why you need to understand exactly what you're paying for, the inclusions and exclusions of the e-levy, as well as its scope of coverage. 555-61034 is the number, and I'm going to pick some of your thoughts now. Remember, these are opinions of those who are sending them to us and not those of GBC. So I'll start straight from the very top, and Kwame from Nima said, enough education is needed on the e-transaction. I'm in Nima, so anytime I go to buy my meat for Sunday fufu, I'll have to locate the butcher who has the GRA e-transaction code, and that's what we were talking about with the watches seller and all that. So if you're going to buy meat from you're in Jamestown, London Market, you have to find someone who is registered so that it does not attract the levy. Right, so that's your answer there, Kwame. Let's see what Jeff is saying. Good morning. Hashtag GTV Breakfast. We love the hashtag. I want to know if I would be charged when I deposit in my wallet. Cash in?
So cash in, cash out, no e-levy.
Okay, so you can you want in your wallet and it will not attract the e-levy fee. Good morning. Can they display the e-levy on a flyer so that education can be understandable? Education seems to be running across the couple of messages that we've seen so far. People want to see something that would remind them of what they are doing, like what happened in the 70s and 80s with all these new interventions, moving from one side of the road, driving to another side, PPP and IFANIF. Is there such an agenda in the offing for e-levy, so people will better understand what they're about?
Yes, there is.
Okay, it's April
they've all taken effect. As of yesterday, they're all moving. Yesterday we met the media. The Ministry of Information is also going out.
But it's not just the media who will be paying the e-levy. It's the people everywhere. Every Ghanaian is going to be roped into this. So the understanding in languages that they can relate to is perhaps what people are asking when they talk about education.
From yesterday, it's all moving. The flyers, the videos, they are moving. They'll see it on their phones very soon.
Okay. Ray is saying, what happens if I send chop money to my wife? If the target is the informal sectors, why does the government want the e-levy formal sector workers who have already paid taxes from source? Kojo from Ogbojo. So if the target is the informal sector workers, why are those in the formal sector who have already paid taxes also being brought into the net?
So I ask this question. If your salary is paid to you and you go to the shop and you are buying, do we say that because you've paid employee tax on your salary, probably you receive 3,000 as your salary, you cash out all the 3,000 in cash, you walk to the market or the shop and you start buying. Another person comes and he's buying the same thing. He is not an employee, so the government hasn't deducted tax on him. The government has deducted tax on you. If you're making payment to the seller, would the seller differentiate between the two persons who are paying to him?
Answering questions by asking other questions. So let's get back to the board, get a few more messages. Thumbs up for bringing him to educate us. Kofi Esiedu Mankata is saying so. Thelma, please ask the gentleman if I will be charged when I send my offerings or tithe to my church, which is registered with a TIN number. So if your church is a registered taxpayer, churches are not paying taxes as much as they should, would you still be charged for your offerings and tithes?
So the differentiation I wanted to make is that there's a difference between transferring to a number and making payment to a number. So the one that has been exempted is payment to a number. And payment to a number is not straightforward. The one receiving have to be known as a merchant. That person have to be registered first, and then also enroll on the platform. So they do two things. They get to GRA, they get registered. So your church has to go to GRA, get registered. Then go to the network platform and also get registered. Once your church has done that, when you're paying to them, you won't pay the E-levy.
Okay, that's your answer. Hi, Thelma. My question is, I'm an employee. I pay every month, but I'm still paying the E-levy whenever I'm doing transfers. Am I not just like a registered institution, registered with GRA? Second question, will I be paying if I transfer money from my Momo wallet to my bank account? That's one. The second point, I think I've heard you say no, because especially if the names on the two accounts are the same. But do you perhaps have anything to share on the top part?
She says she's registered, but the law made the provision on the registration not being on the sender. The registration is on the receiver. So, unfortunately, the law is not targeting the sender who is registered. The law is targeting the recipient who is registered to enjoy the specified merchant payment.
Okay. So more questions coming in. This is from Adjust Alone about E-levy. Good morning, Kafenku. I'd like to suggest that when you buy something and you want to pay with Momo, the moment you key in the amount, the telco and E-levy charges should automatically appear before people are bound to cheat the customer. My piece, Adra from Accra. I remember saying this exact same thing and asking, I know exactly what I'm paying to the telco for the amount I'm sending. Will I know exactly how much of that I'm paying to GRA for E-levy?
The same thing. So it is a provision the Bank of Ghana has asked the telcos to do, that before the customer puts in their PIN to commit the transaction, display what they are going to pay for before they do that. So when they display, in addition to displaying you the charge, you isolate the GRA E-levy also and display it to you. So if you think the tax is too much at that point, you may not provide your PIN and continue. It will be displayed to you before you commit.
I find this question quite fascinating. And why won't GRA deploy their staff to go and register instead of making an informant out of the ordinary Ghanaian?
As I would say, economy of scale. There are 30 million Ghanaians, and there are just about 6,000 GRA staff. It is easier for the let's say 15 million Ghanaians to do this job than for 6,000 to do it.
More people policing the streets of taxes. Onya marching. E-levy is like an armed robbery, and I've heard this comment a lot. It's about government putting their hand in your pocket to collect a tax. So there are people who think that it's just like robbery. How do you counter such arguments, and how do you explain to people who have that mindset that that's not what it is?
If you look at the law, under the scope, there are 5 scopes. Under the exclusion, there are 6. There are more exclusions than even inclusions. That should even tell you that so many things have been taken out.
So it's not robbery?
No.
So that's your answer. Hi, Thelma. This E-levy program is great. Please repeat it on weekends for the benefit of the general public, especially the working public. Emmanuel is saying that. Thank you, Emmanuel, for that comment. We'll take that under advisement. Remember also that the program streams live on Facebook and also on YouTube, and we try to cut them up into segments so that you can consume which segment that you feel is more relevant to you. So follow GBC's platforms on Facebook, YouTube. We are also on other social media platforms, Twitter and Instagram, and you will get all our programs and interviews. Of course, there's a repeat of the program every weekday at 11 p.m. and you can also catch it in case you miss it in the morning. But as we always say, bring us along with you as you go to work by watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube. But thanks for that suggestion. We'll definitely take that under advisement. Let me pick a few more comments. The informal sectors do not receive salary. He's not being fair in answering questions. Is chop money going to attract E-levy? Please answer. Thank you. Kojo is asking. So informal sector not receiving salaries, chop money. So you have money, you are sending some to the missus to buy some food, the mister to pick up some things in town, and it's being taxed.
I keep trying to explain that. Make a distinction between transfer for the sake of giving money to a friend and payments. Now, if it is payments, let's use the MTN example. You dial *170#. The comes, the first one is transfer money. The second one, what does it say? It says Momo pay and pay bills. So please do not use the number 1 to transfer and just say, I'm transferring to Kofi, go and buy the meat. Get Kofi to give you the meat seller's number.
Who should be registered.
Who should be registered with Ghana Revenue. And use number 2 and pay directly. And you don't pay the E-levy.
Education. And FWA is reiterating that point. Education on E-levy from onset has been bad. We suggest they disseminate information well down for us. For more clearer and better understanding of the levy, they should please speak the layman's language. Whichever ways. Abadada, I like you, FWA. Abaye. So this is it. This is the reality of where we are. Please, has the acquisition of the E-levy code got anything to do with the TIN number? And they would need an answer for my sister in the village who has no knowledge about this. So what's the E-levy code and the TIN number, if there is any?
There's nothing called E-levy code. We don't have any code.
Okay.
Any E-levy code. All you do is continue your normal Momo transaction either on MTN or on Vodafone Cash or on any of the networks that you are known to. It's the same code that you know. There's no different code for E-levy.
And here's another one that says, if I register my business with my number for payment, can the system detect whether the money sent to me is for payment or a personal transfer?
Yes, the system can do that. That's where I told you. If the money comes through transfer, you will be charged. But if the money, that means the sender will be charged, not you, the receiver. The sender, when he does it as a transfer, the sender will pay. But when the sender does it as pay for a service or an item you've sold, the E-levy will not be imposed.
Okay, that's your answer there. Good morning, Your Excellency Tham. Thank you. Is the real station of the nation. Honorable Thelma, you're really asking real questions on your minds. Mina Hunter Frank Obab from New Edubia say, thank you, Frank. This guy is pa. You have been sent to come and explain something we don't want. Hey, Ghana. Those are your thoughts. You didn't tell us your name. Usually, we want you to add your name and where you're reaching us from. So if you want to send 200 cedis to someone and you want him to get exactly 200, the money should exceed 200. Maybe all you have to do is what you are sending. So I'm trying to figure out exactly what this is saying. But I get this a lot from people who said, so if I send 200 cedis and I want the person receiving the money to get 200 cedis, how much should I have in my wallet? Because we need to cover the 1% on either side charges from the telcos and now the 1.5%. So we are talking 3.5% extra charges.
It's a bit mathematical.
Okay.
Because if that is the first 200 she's sending, we will 100 free for him, which is not taxable, and just compute 1.5% on the 100 and add it to the 1% that the telco is going to charge him, and that is the amount the sender should have in their wallet before they proceed with sending that amount of money.
Okay, another message coming in. I'm going to wrap this up very quickly. Hello, good morning. My name is Entribu Esiako from Tema. Please, I want you to ask him, why should I report someone who is hustling at the roadside to them? Then we, the merchants, are going to stop deposits, because when it comes to depositing 5,000 to his or her wallet without charges, why? So you see, I've read your message, so you don't actually have a point. Why should they report someone who is hustling? Because there's an impression out there that everyone is trying to make ends meet. And if you go reporting someone, chances are some actions will be taken against the person, and then source of livelihoods may be affected. So out of sympathy, and because we like each other, we won't say anything. Because if that cocoa seller goes out of business at the Nima Gota, I have to go to the other side of Nima to buy cocoa. Okay. And the cocoa sellers' children cannot go to school.
So I believe we look at it from the other side. If everybody is contributing, let's say 10 pesos, everyone, we are 30 million, everybody is contributing 30 pesos. At least that brings us a bigger pool than just a few of us contributing the same 30 pesos. So no amount is too small. We should all, no matter what, contribute. There are services we are enjoying. We use the streets. Is being paid for. We get the police protection. Our children go to the hospital, the schools. These are what those 30 pesos that we are paying would be used for.
Okay, so Mr. Amako will be giving out a contact number which you can send any more queries to, because we are constrained for time. But does this concern you at all when you hear such thoughts that people are just going to go back to using cash, and then the whole vision, the whole purpose of charging the levy in the first place would be defeated? Is it something that worries the technical team, that if people actually decide to go with the exclusions, then the revenue projections could not be met, and then the expected projects that the proceeds would go to would also not materialize?
So as I've said already, the aim of the levy is not to disturb businesses. So for businesses who are compliant with the state is protecting them. And as I said, there's more protection that has been given to citizens than probably was envisaged. So if your business is doing the right thing, it is registered and everything, the state is exempting you from people buying from you, having to pay more to make your item more competitive. So for me, I would look at businesses that are more compliant so that I end up not paying more. Now, I like the convenience of being in the house and ordering my food and the food coming. If I measure how much I'll drive from my house and go to go and purchase the same food and come back and queue, the amount of money is more than the e-levy I'm paying for. So I won't go back to cash.
All right. So we've talked about inclusions and exclusions. The charging entities, VRA is empowering platforms to pull these monies together for them. Let's go through that very quickly, and then give us the contact numbers for where we can get extra information. In fact, the screen is still buzzing with questions still coming in, but we are quickly running out of time. So let's wrap up. What are the
contact
charging
number? The toll-free number of GRA is 0800 900 110. That's the toll-free number of GRA. So you can call on that number. We would also expect people to write by email. We have info@gra.gov.gh. That is info@gra. The number.
Okay.
So
the toll-free number
is 0800 900 110. That's the toll-free number. 0800 900 110. That's the toll-free number. Then you can also write an email, info, that's info @gra.gov.gh. And then you can also give us feedback, which is feedback@gra.gov.gh. So these are the three contacts that you can use to get to GRA. So for more information, you use the info. To give us feedback, you use the feedback. And then to make a call, you use the toll-free number 0800 900 110.
All right. So we'll have another opportunity to invite the GRA back to the table. Someone is asking me, so if I pay my plumber, how do I know that my plumber is going to pay his taxes? Well, ask your plumber to register with the GRA, is what Mr. Mwako is saying. And then more monies will come into the national kitty for the kind of developments that we want to see. Government has told us that there will be investment in employment-making avenues. There will also be investment into road infrastructure. So employment creation, roads, cutting down on travel time, increasing productivity, all those dreams and visions are on the line. Come 1st May, the implementation will begin, and keep the conversation going. And if you have questions, send them to us. We'll invite the relevant people to answer them. There's another chat we are having right after this show, and my guests are already seated. I'll introduce them to you after this break.
Baby, make you know they talk chow. Hope say that you go drop me your number, cause I know they feel it.
Good morning, my neighbor.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I see if I'm playing with you.
Good morning, and we serve you.
One line, we are not the play.